All right, so have you ever had a fear of potentially dying in a car wash? Have you ever been scared of getting your leg potentially trapped in an escalator, maybe at the mall? Hell, does just the thought of being trapped in a movie theater surrounded by a bunch of people you don't know kind of make you nervous? Well, this movie takes all that stuff and wraps it into a nice little bloody present that we like to call The Final Destination. But how is this movie? Well, let's talk about it. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Mad Blood and welcome to movie number 4 in my Final Destination review series called The Final Destination, or Final Destination 4, or Final Destination 3D, whatever the hell you want to call it, from 2009. But regardless, definitely a movie in this franchise that was trying to capitalize on that big, massive, crazy, wild 3D era that we saw. And yeah, this is the 4th movie in a horror franchise. And this franchise, up to this point, has definitely been very successful. So it's kind of got golden handcuffs in a way because, yeah, like I said, it's that 4th movie in a horror franchise, the 3rd sequel. And this is an idea and a concept where up to this point, it's kind of like, all right, what could we do here that's new? What can we do that's fresh? How can we push this story forward while also at the same time just giving Final Destination fans what they came here for, which is a crazy premonition, crazy kills that are gonna make you say, holy shit. And this movie definitely has a lot of that. I mean, it definitely has that blueprint, that foundation of the Final Destination franchise that fans have came to know. But with that said, this movie is also a very up and down journey with some fun moments, but also some moments as well where I just think to myself, what the hell were they thinking with this direction, with this idea? This isn't enough. And it's just kind of sloppy at moments too. But so David R. Ellis, the director from the second movie, came back to direct this one. The second movie, one of the most popular movies in this entire franchise. Great premonition, great characters, or fun characters, I should say. Great kills, though. Just a really, really fun movie. And surprisingly, like, despite the negativity around The Final Destination, this movie still, up to this point, is the highest grossing movie in the entire franchise at about like $187 million. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of that just has to do with the 3D era charging us up the ass for movie tickets. But still, something has to be said about that. And basically the premise of this one goes like this. You have this college student, Nick, and a group of friends. They go to this NASCAR type of a race. And of course, he has a big premonition, a big vision, whatever you want to call it. And a bunch of people die, and then death comes back to kill them in the order that they were supposed to die in the premonition. But of course, Nick saved some of the people along the way. And yeah, not only does this movie have the big normal premonition we're used to in the Final Destination franchise, but what they also add that's kind of new here is Nick, our main character, is starting to also have these smaller visions as well. These visuals, not just little signs along his life that are just kind of in the outside world, like these straight up hallucinations, these glimpses, these images that are telling him who is going to die next and giving him hints at how they're going to die. And also in this one, not surprising, the big opening premonition is basically a red herring, ultimately leading them to a death situation that they really just can't get out of, basically just fulfilling death's plan regardless in the end. And yeah, I remember when this movie came out, a lot of people were talking about the big NASCAR race, premonition scene, a lot of the deaths and things like that, like a lot of people tend to do in the Final Destination franchise. I always wanted to see this movie in theaters. I never got around to doing it. It was 2009. I was still in college, just kind of doing that whole thing. But yeah, I remember there were a lot of people talking about this movie, especially, in my age group. So right off the bat, I will say, in my opinion, this is the worst opening premonition in this entire franchise. So like I mentioned, we start off at this NASCAR type of race. I don't remember if it's exactly NASCAR, if it's branded that way, but it's that type of a race. And early on, like they like to do, they're already hinting at who's going to basically get it. We've got this guy who's super racist. We've got this girl that's kind of annoying. Like she steals one of the other guys' flask and just starts drinking it without asking. So you're kind of getting little hints there along the way of who's going to get it. Now, on one hand, Yes, in this scene, I mean, there's a lot of hilarious gore at moments that I can laugh about and things like that. And I'd imagine, especially with some 3D glasses on in the movie theater, I'm sure it was kind of an experience. Just all of this stuff being thrown at you. In the first 8 minutes of the movie, there's like 5 or 6 moments where they're really going for the 3D. That very much feels like Friday the 13th Part 3, the yo-yo moment, where you know and you can clearly see that it's designed for 3D. But I feel like in this opening scene, they kind of bit off more than they could chew. The CGI, the digital effects, it's just not there. Maybe if they filmed this at night and that was kind of the setting for this premonition, that could have worked. That would have helped us hide some of the CGI. And I think it would have made it feel a little bit more realistic and a little bit more effective for me, because what makes the first, second, and third movies premonitions great is that some of that stuff is pretty realistic. So when you're put in that situation, it makes you genuinely think about it. Like, holy shit, is something like that gonna happen? And yeah, obviously we're 4 movies into the franchise, and like I said a second ago, I do think this is the worst opening premonition. I do think this opening is just really, it's just the way it looks. It definitely looks the jankiest, in my opinion. I feel like the gore, really all of it looks like it's done in post. Just clearly, blatantly looks like it's just CGI, digital gore. And I get in Final Destination, a lot of these kills and those moments are supposed to be over the top. They're supposed to be silly. They're supposed to make you laugh. But in my opinion, just how it's all pulled off and how it all goes down, I definitely think this opening is the worst in the franchise. On top of that, one thing that I think that they really missed with this opening premonition is creating a scene that's very, very relatable to a lot of people, something you will come across on a pretty regular basis. Think about the first movie, airplanes. People fly all the time. Second movie, the logging truck. I see those things all the time, especially if you live in a place that's pretty woodsy, you live in the South, you live in the Pacific Northwest, you're gonna see a shit ton of logging trucks all the time. The third movie, a roller coaster. Who doesn't pass by an amusement park? Who doesn't go to an amusement park in the summer? People do that all the time. How many people go to a race like this? How many people go to a NASCAR race, especially if you live in Europe or something else? Is it that relatable? Is it something that you're going to see often and really think about, and just immediately think about Final Destination? Not really. I get some of you probably live in a section of the United States where there are a lot of races and it's kind of a big thing. But I feel like for the rest of the US, and I'm a guy who's lived all over the United States for several years, and especially people who are abroad, this whole NASCAR idea, race idea, I just don't think it's going to hit people as effectively as a lot of the others in the franchise. But with that said, let's not take this too serious. I mean, this is Final Destination. So yes, we do get some fun gore, some great silliness and over the top. The car starts to fall apart because of a little tool that was accidentally left in the back of the car. Wheels are decapitating people. So yes, there is still some fun to be had, of course. And then after that, we get a pretty fun opening title credit sequence as well. It's got this X-ray vision kind of a thing. It's paying homage to the other movies previously in the franchise, showing some of those very memorable death scenes, but it's showing it in an X-ray vision kind of a way, which I thought was pretty fun and a cool idea. And like I mentioned a second ago, our main character, Nick, is starting to have these visions, these visuals of what is potentially going to happen to the next person. And to me, it looks very cartoon. I don't think they did a good job with that at all. And I get that they're really trying to play into the 3D here. I get that. And they're also trying to do something a little bit new for the franchise. I get that. Like that moment before the guy gets his anus sucked inside out. He's having this vision of a pipe bursting and water. And then he calls the guy and he's like, hey man, I don't really know, but just avoid water, I guess. I just don't really like that creative direction, that idea for the visions in this movie, for the hints about what's to come in this movie. I prefer the digital camera stuff. Hell, I even prefer just having some things in your everyday life hint at what's going to happen, like Alex in the first movie, with that news article, that newspaper that gets cut up in his little fan and kind of hints that Todd is going to be next. Little stuff like that happens just in your everyday life. I think that's more effective for me. To me, just flashing these images is not creative at all. I feel like it's more even just cheap and kind of lazy. I also feel like these flashes and these visions are the most glaring part of the movie that make this movie look like a straight to VHS movie, something you'd see on like, or the Sci-Fi Channel or something like that. Just the way it looks, it's so cartoonish, which is weird for a big theatrical release like this in a big horror franchise. Now, with that said, this movie does have some effective kill scenes to me that I think are a lot of fun, and in classic Final Destination fashion, they take some things that we see, that we do in our everyday life, and they use that against us. You know, the next time you're at a gas station after watching this movie, and the gas station little thingy asks you, hey, would you like to buy a $5 car wash today? You're going to look at that thing and be like, nope. Not today, bitch. Even the pool death, I feel like, is an effective one. It plays on that whole thing at a public swimming pool. So next time you're down there swimming with your goggles on, you're going to be like, holy shit. Okay, maybe stay away from the drain down there. Who knows what could happen? But I do think that's a fun kill, even though it's not the bloodiest kill in this franchise or anything like that. But to me, I do think it is the most memorable death, probably in this entire movie. I do, though, think there was a huge opportunity missed with the mom that died right after the hair salon moment. All of that. I do feel like they should have made that death hair salon or haircut related in some kind of a way. I do kind of feel like that was a huge opportunity to kind of give the ladies like their holy shit moment that they could just always think about every single time they go and get their hair done, their haircut, whatever you want to say. But nope, they don't do it. They just make it about a lawnmower and a rock. Okay, so now a part of the twist that is revealed a little bit later on in the movie is the fact that the cowboy who was sitting next to them in the premonition that Nick had kind of just moved to the side so his girlfriend could see the race better. In reality, he remembers that he didn't actually make him move, and thus they find out from the news that the guy actually survived. So after Bubba, is trying to off himself and literally cannot, and then they're popping bottles because, they think, well, okay, we're good. We survived this whole thing. It's all over now. We're going to book a trip to Amsterdam, which they do because they saved the girl in the car wash. So they just assume, okay, we broke the curse essentially by saving her. We're all good. But now they find out, wait, that was actually not the order at all. So that's why Bubba, I'm going to call him Bubba, of course, from Forrest Gump, but that's why Bubba wasn't able to do that to himself, is because they didn't actually know what the order was. So, oh shit, now we got to race to the hospital because the cowboy, that guy, he's definitely next. And this guy gets absolutely crushed by a therapy tub that's kind of like flooding above him. So it seeps through the floor, falls through the floor on top of him. Hell, hey, therapy tubs getting a lot of love in the horror genre. We got this one, and we also get the great scene from Halloween 2. But yeah, this is one of the weakest deaths in this entire franchise. They don't really make it all that bloody or all that gory or anything like that. But for me personally, it is actually a kill that I kind of laugh about because my wife is actually a physical therapist. She doesn't really work with therapy tubs and stuff like that. But anytime I see this kill, I think about her. I kind of bring it up to her sometimes. I show it to her. It's one of those deaths that I show to her. I'm like, look at you PTs over here killing people in horror movies. Look at you. In this movie too, it's not a great scene. They try to kind of replicate the girl who gets hit by the bus from the first movie, but I feel like that particular scene, if you've ever seen a movie in your entire life, it's a scene you can just kind of spot from a mile away. Do you guys feel the same way? I just feel like it's so easy to see that something's coming. I don't know, there's just something about it. You go from like this organic looking handheld shot where we're following the characters with a very awkward cut, and then all of a sudden we're on like a static kind of tripod shot that's really like zoomed out. I don't know, there's just something about it. It just makes it feel very, very obvious that something's coming. It's not nearly as effective at all as that bus kill in the first movie, which, yeah, is definitely a holy shit moment in this franchise. This kill, not great, but once again, poor Bubba, man. And now another thing that I do think this movie does the worst in the franchise to me is just with the tension, the anxiety, the fake outs that I've come to love in this Final Destination franchise, especially in those first three movies. I don't think it's all that effective in this movie. We get scenes like her shoelace gets caught in the escalator at the mall, which lasts like 3 seconds. It's like, oh no, my shoelace is caught in there. And I know it gives us a little hint at what's going to happen, which is definitely a fucking geez, holy shit moment with so much gore. But still, it's one of those fake outs where it's just like, okay, not really a lot of anxiety there or anything like that. Now, I kind of look at it this way. If the fake outs and the anxiety and the great buildup in the first Final Destination movie is kind of like a ribeye steak, well, then this movie is basically like cube steak. Now, love me some cube steak, but you know you're going to have to spit out a couple bites because that cube steak is going to be gristly as fuck. So the big setup at the end of this movie is the two remaining girls in this movie are like, hey, there's this chick flick that we've been wanting to see for a long time, and now that everybody's dead and we've escaped death, we want to go and have some popcorn, enjoy ourselves, and watch this movie. And then the main character, Nick, is like, nah, don't want to go. I'm not really into that kind of stuff. But then while they're at the movie, he has a vision of like sawdust catching on fire, and then the fire eventually goes on to these flammable giant barrels of explosive shit, which I don't know why a construction crew at a mall would have these massive barrels full of things that could explode, but I digress. So our main character, Nick, needs to drive his ass there as soon as possible and be the hero and help save the day. Now, with the vision for this one, it's a little weird because earlier in the movie, some of the visions and things that he's starting to see are more like hints. Like he sees a little pole with a snake around it, which later on, come to find out, was hinting that Bubba was going to get hit by an ambulance, which has that little design on the side of it. So it kind of makes you think a little bit. But no, not with this one. It just straight up just shows him a movie theater exploding. So I'm like, okay, that doesn't really leave much up to the imagination, right? I also love how Lori sits there in the movie theater and just constantly tells her friend next to her, like, I have a really bad feeling about this. I think something bad, really bad is going to happen. I feel like this is going to be just like the racetrack. We really should get at it. What are you waiting for? Move your ass. Get going. At least let the rest of the people in the theater enjoy their final movie before their guts get splattered all over this screen. Get a move on. What are you doing? But this explosion is a pretty crazy scene. I mean, nails are flying into people, shrapnel and just pieces of the building are flying into people all left and right. Plus, just the fact of they are in a movie theater. And if you're watching that movie in a movie theater, they're literally dying, doing exactly what you are doing right now. So it's kind of a little bit of that like meta moment, which could potentially make some people nervous that are watching the movie in that moment. But I also like the moment when the usher is kind of helping people get out and he's like, everybody, it's going to be okay. Everybody is going to be fine. And then he just gets absolutely exploded like a rag doll. I thought that was a pretty funny moment. And yeah, don't you worry. I know that moment where her shoelace gets caught in the escalator was kind of lame. No anxiety really there. They do bring it back though. And this girl gets absolutely crushed in this escalator. A juicy and nasty death scene. A pretty memorable one, I will not lie. But yeah, it will definitely kind of make you think twice. If you didn't already have a fear of escalators like some people do, you might now. And after all of that, we actually get another twist in this movie. And it's revealed that that whole movie theater explosion that we just saw was actually a whole nother premonition that our main character got. So now, for realsies this time, he needs to go to the movie theater and save them, which he does after taking a few nails in the arm, probably shitting his pants. He ends up being the hero that saves the day and all is well, right? Well, you know this is Final Destination, and yeah, death is not really a fan of happy endings, but really that entire premonition, ending, anxiety scene and all of that, yeah, I think it's a cool idea to set it in a movie theater. That adds like a little extra meta to it, gives maybe some people some anxiety about watching it in a movie theater while a movie theater is exploding. But overall, I think that entire scene is just kind of okay to me. I do feel like it's the worst up to that point in the franchise. But then after we fade from that scene, we actually get the real final scene of the movie, which happens 2 weeks later. Nick and the two girls are hanging out in a cafe, and then Nick starts to have one of those feelings, and which is never a good sign. And then he asks them a question that, I mean, makes sense. He's just like, hey, why are we actually so confident that this is all over? And the girls and Nick are like, that's actually a pretty good point. Maybe this was death's design all along. Maybe death just wanted us to get right here at this moment. And then bam, they get absolutely just crushed by a semi truck that crushes into this cafe, which is a death that we, I guess, kind of see, but we also kind of don't. They use some more of that X-ray stuff that they use in the opening credits, which is cool. It shows you kind of the intricacies of the actual death, like the bones crushing and things like that. But just this idea of, yeah, you were supposed to survive the premonition, the whole red herring thing, and the whole twist is that this was death's design all along to get you drinking a milkshake in a cafe so you could be ran over by a semi-truck. I don't know. Seems kind of convoluted and confusing. Why would that happen? Why would that be the design? But in the end, though, it's not really a twist that I think is all that interesting or all that great to me, which is basically this movie. So this is the Final Destination franchise. So the bar for some of this stuff isn't exactly set at a super high level as far as like what we're expecting out of a movie like this. You know, this isn't like going to a restaurant and expecting a Michelin 5-star experience. No, this is like going to In-N-Out Burger. You know, you're going to expect to have a pretty damn good fast food burger and some fries with some empty calories, some fun gore, and things like that, and leave, you know, getting what you expected out of this movie. And yeah, this movie does have a ton of gore. The cast in this movie is fine for a movie like this, but it is probably the worst cast in the franchise. And with that said, there's nothing that this movie does that's as good as those first 3 movies. The opening premonition, not as good as the first 3 movies. The cast, not as good as those first 3 movies. Yes, we do get some fun death scenes in this movie, but the death scenes, not nearly as good as those first 3 movies. The twist in this movie, not as good to me. And that just kind of sums up the Final Destination. Yes, the bar for this franchise is, you know, not set super high. This isn't supposed to be a cinematic masterpiece. But for the Final Destination franchise, this 4th movie is just not nearly as good as any of the other movies in this franchise. And also, if you're already a fan of Final Destination, yeah, there's going to be a lot of things in this movie that you'll enjoy. A lot of the tropes you've came used to, and the blueprint of the franchise is there. But if you weren't a Final Destination fan already, or you've seen some of the other movies and you didn't really like them, this is definitely not one of the movies in the franchise that's gonna all of a sudden convert you to be a Final Destination fan. So yeah, there you go. That is my review of The Final Destination. First of all, I want to thank my Patreon supporters and my channel members. Thank you guys so much for the support. Really do appreciate it. If you want some more videos from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. If you don't want to miss future videos on the channel, the best way to do that is to make sure you subscribe. Also, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Really helps this video a lot. But thanks so much, everybody. All of my social media links will be down below in the description if you want to follow me over there. Thanks again for watching. I really, really do appreciate it, guys. My name is Matt, and I will talk to you in the next one.